Hello, everyone. Glad y'all were able to join us today. Had a long weekend. Went up to some bad weather. Rained all the way up to Indiana, and then spent a little bit of time up there talking to Larry, which we're going to be discussing Amber tonight, which is the whole reason I went up there to Indiana. But anyway, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. Um, Anyone that's joining us for the first time in our chat, respect the families, the mods, and each other. Enjoy your time here. Discuss everything that you wish. At the end of the presentation, we'll, of course, answer any questions you have. And so with that, we'll get started with the introduction. This is Mrs. Steve, and I'm Steve. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, had 20 years of service. Started off my career working in the jail, went on the road, and then into investigation. During that 20 years, I had training from everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician, which greatly helped my investigative career. After I retired, I became aware of the true crime world. And also, before I retired, I had all different types of cases, from thefts, burglaries, up to homicides. But then after I retired, I started this channel and found out that to assist the true crime world, and tried to become a ambassador for law enforcement so that I could assist in making people understand how law enforcement looks at certain things and how we work and think, and so that we can have a greater impact together. And tonight we're going to be looking at the a cold case. If y'all remember, I think it was in October that I spoke with Larry Crum about his daughter who was reported missing in 1983. This case is a 40-year-old cold case, and that's one of the things that my community and this channel has allowed me to do. That when I first started this channel, I had no idea that I would ever be looking at cold cases. We were contacted by several families, and Larry Crum was one of them. And after I took up the case and looked at it, and also, I was able to speak with other families. And Larry actually is the one that introduced me to Drew Collins. They're absolutely best friends, and it's an honor to assist them in facing what they have to face. It's absolutely amazing how the strength of those two individuals. And Larry is absolutely, whenever you speak to him, as you saw in the interview, he is passionate about finding the answers to this case. And as you'll watch, and as we talk about some of the articles and the beginnings of and what started this case in 1983, that Amber came up missing December the 26th, day after Christmas, and was never seen since. And this case has all different types of issues in it. There was a man charged. There was a trial. There was testimony that caused a individual, family member, actually the mother of Amber, that she changed her story from speaking to law enforcement to, when it came trial time, she took back that testimony. And of course, the case was thrown out. So it has every little weaving that all these cases have that you look at. And it's absolutely a tragedy of the ups and downs and roller coaster rides that these families go through. And when you speak to Larry, of course, you see that he's been up and down. And, quite often, one of the topics or one of the answers I get whenever I'm speaking with him, and I'm trying to get things going because it's a slow process. He lives in Indiana. The cold case is in Texas, and I live in Georgia. So there's a lot of logistics for just us to get together to talk about the case at times. And then, of course, it's even more as I try to find individuals to assist me in this investigation. And it's absolutely an answer to a prayer where you have people that step forward. And I'm so thankful for those individuals that do step forward. I have a private investigator that stepped forward in Texas, absolutely phenomenal investigator, brilliant, and of course, doesn't want any recognition for it. And so at some point, I hope that we do sit down for an interview because she has a great life story to tell. And I think y'all would be interested in the private investigator side, not only on this case, but other cases that she works. And she has worked several high profile cases in Texas. But, and then as we were preparing and I was looking to go to Texas later this spring, and I had contacted some canine handlers that would be able to look for 40-year-old graves for cadaver, and speaking to them, and we had set up that set for a search, and we still may be bringing them in. Oh, Jennifer Rochelle, super sticker. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate your support.
Thank you so much.
And but as I spoke to them, and I realized that even with the K9, we were still going to have to bring in some type of equipment to try to locate graves or any type of excavations, diggings, or burials that someone would use to hide a homicide. And so as I was looking for that, out of nowhere, I answered to a prayer, I swear, we were contacted. And when I say we, I had a mail title to Steve and Mob Crew and Chris. And this individual had seen that we were talking about working some cold cases, and they stepped forward and wanted to assist. And of course, absolutely, we spoke, had a great interview, and I learned more about electrical resistivity imaging than I ever imagined. And I've researched it, and I'm hooked on it. And so we are in the stages of preparing to fund getting her down to Texas sometime in the coming months. And as soon as we get permission to get on the properties. I spoke with the private investigator today about the cold case and trying to get permission. We have 2 or 3 properties that we need to look at, and we know one of the properties without doubt, but there's a couple other places that we need to look, and we're going to be looking at those in the coming days. And the private investigator right now said that Texas is in an ice storm, and evidently any place I want to go right now is in an ice storm. And so I can't get to Iowa to meet with Drew because they're in a worse winter conditions than Texas or Indiana. But but that's just things that we face. And that's the thing that whenever I speak to Larry and I tell him, I said, I'm sorry it's taking so much time. His first response is, of course, well, don't worry about it. You know, it's been 40 years. And he says, I can wait another week or two. And so absolutely, I admire the man, and I have the greatest respect for him and everything that he has done, because none of us have, there, anyone that has lost a loved one to any type of violent crime, I feel for them. But when you look at these individuals that have these cold cases, and Larry, of course, 40 years, and he still has that intent that he's never forgotten, and he's fighting for his child and wanting to know the answers, and rightly so. And so I've tried to do everything I can for him, and I want to thank everyone as far as supporting the channel and everything. Y'all are what allows me to go out and meet these people, and you'll be the ones that also help us make sure that we are able to get these professionals in to the location from I think the ERI scientist is coming out of Illinois. But I want to thank everybody for everything you've done so far for this channel, and I appreciate your support. And so now we'll get into the case. But back in 1983, Amber was reported missing. She was reported that her mother's boyfriend at the time had went to a store during an ice storm. It was the worst ice storm in Texas history in 40 years from the headlines. And so he got up that December 26th of 1983 and decided to drive down to the store. And so he went to the store, left her in the truck, stepped out from the store and said she's missing. And of course, when you get to the trial part of it, you'll see that there's differing stories about that. There's individuals that were local that were at the store. And of course, one individual who is now deceased says that he never saw anyone in the truck other than the boyfriend of the mother. But anyway, they reported missing, and the first suspect they had was Larry Crum, who was the father who at that time was living in Kentucky. And so law enforcement contacted FBI and said that we have an abduction and to go get Larry. And so they did. And when they found out Larry didn't have her, then of course it focuses back on that this isn't the case, that Larry isn't the one that has taken Amber. So Larry, and if you ever meet Larry, he's military through I mean, absolutely I respect him for serving our country. He's hardcore, and he immediately came to assist in the search and to find answers in Texas. And absolutely what any loving father would do, and he did. And so he comes to Texas and does assist in the search, and which at some point we'll tell that life story. Is a very colorful story of the determination of the father and the confrontations he had trying to find his child, with the suspicion of family involvement that led to the disappearance of Amber. And he still holds with that story, and there's nothing that says that his theory is not correct. There's actually a lot of information that was given that indicates that his theory is correct, and I agree with that theory. And we're going to be looking and see if we can't solve it. But anyway, Mrs. Steve's arm still hurts a little bit there. But anyway, as he got back and they started searching, and of course they were unable to find an abductor, unable to find Amber, and was unable to find any type of crime scene or any place that she might have possibly been injured, or some type of homicide had occurred, or the anything relating to her death. And so they eventually, like I said, law enforcement had the best lead, which was Larry. And then when they lose Larry, they start looking at the family. And the mother, if you go online and you do some research or articles, you'll find out that there was a case brought against the boyfriend of the mother, due to the fact that the mother described certain situation that had occurred the previous night of Amber's disappearance. Amber was reportedly in her bed with her eyes fixed, in a lifeless condition. And the mother explains this to law enforcement, and law enforcement takes it, brings charges, and she supports this by also other testimony, supporting evidence about certain things that her boyfriend did that he had never done in the past, such as washing laundry and things of that nature. And so law enforcement took necessary steps, obtained arrest warrant, got him into trial. And then once the trial starts, And the mother of the missing girl testifies, and the woman contradicts her previous statements about fears for her baby. So she takes back everything she said during the trial, and which of course throws the case into 180. And to this day, the case has not been solved. And Larry, of course, is still on the quest to find the exact reasoning of what occurred that day and why people, he believes there's a lot of people out there that have knowledge exactly of what went on with the Amber's disappearance. And I agree with it because he makes a statement about certain things, about finding an article of clothing that he found extremely suspicious in an abandoned house. And his co-searcher talked him out of, no, that's not hers. And that's not her article of clothing. And Larry regrets that decision to this day. And that's one of the things that we're going to be going back and looking at and seeing if we can't check that property also, in addition to some other properties. But when the mother changed her story back, and when you read the article about, like I said, what mother would ever describe her child in a condition and not call 911, or back then you wouldn't have had 911, but wouldn't have called some type of medical assistance for their child, or took their child to a hospital for proper treatment. She didn't. She failed to, and then it just fell to the wayside after the after the mother changes her story. Then we get into that after a year of searching, no answers, and then we go on a roller coaster of information. It's like this in all cases, that when you have a case that is unsolved, certain information comes into the investigators. They're taking tips, they're following up leads, and everything across the board. You have people trying to call in, and if there's a reward, they're trying to get that. And so it's just a roller coaster of emotions for the family. And Larry rode that roller coaster, and he still rides it. And like I said, I admire him greatly for his stamina and strength. But part of the roller coaster is that during those days, this in the early 80s is pre-DNA. And so they were trying to, as they got reports, and not only of living children that were abducted in other states that favored, in this case, this was a young child that had similar features of Amber, and they thought that possibly it was Amber. And so they were going to do the fingerprints, and they did. And of course, it turned out it was not. But like I said, the roller coaster of high points, hoping that it is, was part of that case. And then there was another one I didn't bring up of another child that was found that was deceased. And once again, they go in and they're able to determine that that child was not Amber also. And so you would have those high points of possibly a child that's living found, and then you'd have those low points of when a child is found deceased, that you have to go through that nightmare. And that's what these families go through. And that's the effort that we have to take as a society, everything that we can, trying to work these cases and see if we can't find some type of answer for them. Then you also have families, and I've worked several different types of cases and spoke with people that have they turned to psychics and other things, and that's for each family to look at and to weigh that information on their own. I personally have never had anything that was anything that carried out or brought forth any new information in any of the cases that I've worked. But you still have that in some people, and I always looked at it from the standpoint that if it comforts the family and know that they've done everything, including this route, then of course it doesn't bother my part of the investigation. And if it generates a lead that's the mainstay, is that whatever it takes to generate a lead that solves this case. If someone sees this and then says, oh, I remember something about that day, and it brings forth a vital tip, then that's what we want. And so if I can get a story into the headlines, that's all I want to do. And that's part of what this channel will be doing. We're going to create websites for these families. We're going to try to generate as much information as we can. And we want people that watch and see these broadcasts that we make to spread the word if you're in the area, and make sure that these children are never forgotten, these families are never forgotten, and that we try to do everything we can to get justice for them. And that's all that we can do. And but if y'all have any information, or if you're from that area and in Texas, near Dallas, Fort Worth area, spread the word. If you have any information about it, notify law enforcement. And I'll be looking, there's a neighborhood I have to look into. And if anyone out there in that area that has knowledge, especially in 1983 of that area, or you have a family member that would wish to talk to me about certain things that were going on at that time, absolutely let me know. Send me an email at steve@truecrimeweb.com, and I would appreciate it. Now, before we get to the other part, do we want to do that wanted person, or we want to do that at the end? On a side note, before we get into the questions, I received an email today discussing this internet predator, and there's a nationwide manhunt. Just previous to the show, I checked and made sure it was still on, and it is. That this individual here, who's a threat to every individual in the country, that he still is out there hunting victims, or through dating applications or apps. And if you have any information on Benjamin Foster, he's currently wanted out of Oregon for attempted murder, kidnapping, and assault. And they expect that he has changed his hair, and these pictures are the same individual, and I wouldn't have recognized him being the same individual.
So which one does he look like now, though?
Well, the one that was in the newspaper was the one on the left with long hair. And then in the article, it pulled up the one with short hair. So I don't know which one it was. But regardless, he could be one of the two, dyed hair or otherwise. If you have any information, make sure you get in touch with law enforcement, because he is a dangerous individual and he needs to be caught. All right.
That's crazy.
All right. So now we'll get into whatever.
All right. Let's see here. Molly's keeping you busy tonight.
Thank you, Molly.
All right. At True Crime Web, when was the last official sighting of Amber? It seems like the grocery store wasn't correct because the timeline doesn't match. When did anyone besides M and BF see her? Mom and boyfriend, I guess, see her.
It would have been prior to Christmas Day. They have pictures of her opening presents. I don't know if that was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So there were pictures of her alive at that time. And so, of course, everybody being at home during the Christmas holidays, there's not a lot of traveling. And not only that, it was during, as weather news said, it was the worst ice storm in 40 years in Texas. So there wasn't a lot of travel or people out playing or at parks. So it would have just been that Christmas holiday.
Okay. And Molly, is James Monroe still in the Dallas area, or does anyone know where he is?
Yes, we know where he is, and he's the father or the boyfriend of the mother that went on trial. But yes, he's out. He lives in another state now. But everyone knows where he's at.
Oh, including Larry. And Molly, were they living in a single family home or apartment building at the time Amber went missing?
It was just a small residential single-story home in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
And Mr. Steve, if you can, without disclosing anything confidential, can you tell us how you're selecting search areas?
It's just information, and we won't go back and verify. Law enforcement, actually, I have all the news clippings and of that time, and of course, Larry has a folder of news clipping. And then my private investigator was able to actually do some research and pulled up all the newsreels of the search. And some of those, you can see law enforcement doing searches at the residence, within a mile of the residence. They're on horseback. And this is 1983, and they're still searching, and they're using horses, which I can understand that. It's rough territory, rough terrain, and you're in Texas, and there's
Wasn't
certain.
it an ice storm or something?
It was an ice storm, and so you have to give it to them. And I don't know what all the technologies back then were, especially even with canines. The cadaver dogs, the first cadaver dog I ever was aware of that I worked with was probably somewhere in the early 90s. And so I don't know in Texas how specific and well-trained animals were back then. And so from those, there's certain areas and certain residents that we're going to be looking at that as Larry searched the area, things that stood out to him, those are the places we're going to go back to if we can get permission from the property owners. You're talking about 40 years. Some of these property owners may not even have lived in the area or been alive at the time. And so it's like I said, it's a multiple step process to get access to some of these things. And but we're moving that way, and hopefully we'll have something that will come up. And, when I spoke to the private investigator today, she said that, of course, it may take her a few days to get out there, and which is fine. They're in the middle of another ice storm, and I told her, I said, I'm taking that as a sign that 40 years ago there was an ice storm, and we have one now, and which is not quite 40, it's 39 or something, but and we're in another ice storm, so I'm taking that as a good sign, and so hopefully it will be.
All right. And Jackie B, is Mom still alive today? And did she say why she changed her story?
Yes, she is. She lives in another state also. Larry tries to talk to her every now and then, but has no idea of why she changed her story. One could speculate that there is a reason why she's in a relationship with a man and was in a relationship at the time of the trial, and that individual was charged with it, and then but now they have since that time parted ways, and there are certain things that we'll do at certain times in this investigation as far as speaking and contacting her.
Okay. And from Ann, was Monroe actually acquitted at trial?
No, they dropped the charges. I believe that's what the article. Let me go back here to it.
Oh, Molly answered.
It dismisses.
Yeah, dismissed it.
Yeah, they didn't find him. They just dismissed those charges.
Yeah.
And which is interesting because they said, well, now we don't have the evidence. And because Texas at that time, and it was before, that if you don't have a body, you don't have the evidence to say that there has been a homicide. And Texas, I still believe, from speaking to the private investigator, they're still a long way in that rabbit hole that if there's no body, there's no case. And of course, it's extremely difficult to bring charges if you don't have any evidence that there was a homicide. We're seeing more of it now due to that there is DNA, and through certain precedent set in other trials that allows, while difficult, it can occur that individual will be charged with homicides without a body.
And Ann wants to know, is going to fuss with me about using my hand. You got to let it heal. And I know I did too much tonight. Stupid me. He's already said it too. Stupid me. So I'm paying the price. But, you know, it is what it is. I'll just take me some more Tylenol and rock on. So thank you for that. Let's see here.
And I want to talk to my community right quick.
Okay.
I left to on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and traveled up to Indiana, long hard drive, and but got there and spent some time with Larry and looked at some internet stuff, and then of course I had to go to another meeting, took care of it, and then able to get back yesterday. But I want to thank my community for sticking with me and bearing with me that this is part of my channel. And so at certain times, you know, I try to create as much content on mainstream information and cases, but working the cold cases, which is turned into one of the priorities of this channel, if not the priority, that just bear with me, and we'll get some answers as quick as we can and get back with you as much as possible. I just want to thank my community for staying with me during these times.
And from Ann, Mr. Steve, any of the LE that worked on the case still around?
Yes, and the private investigator has spoken to some of the cold case agents that have worked on the case over the years, and there's been several. Larry has spoken to several of them also over the years, and he provided the information, and I got with the private investigator, and they were able to go and speak to him. And so, and then a fascinating part of this case is that Amber grandfather was a well-known individual in a industry, and he hired one of the four most renowned private investigators at that time in Texas, if not the country. And I spoke to him. His name is Bill Deere. You can go look at his website. Absolutely brilliant man. He's in his 80s, almost 90 now, but still, last time I talked to him, absolutely brilliant. And I've got to go out and look at the case files and get some information from him also. And I look forward to that. And I don't know, just as soon as her arm gets well enough for her to travel, we'll be heading out to Texas to prep for.
But not in a snowstorm.
Not in a snowstorm.
Or an ice storm.
Yeah, you know.
It's got to be a little warmer for this old girl.
I had reserved Texas for the winter spring search calendar, and now they have an ice storm, but that won't last long. So
well, but the dogs have to have a little bit warmer too.
Yeah,
so.
but well, yes, and then of course the scientist doesn't need all the warm weather, but we do want to be able for her to travel safely from Illinois and not be in a ice storm also.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that's coming up that we're going to be working towards in the as soon as Mrs. Steve's arm gets better.
All right. So you want to do just some comments?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see what we got tonight.
We'll do a few comments.
We're going to get to cover a lot. Let's see here.
I'm still recovering, guys. I haven't had my all my coffee.
Yeah, he hadn't caught up on his coffee yet. Let's see here what we got. We got a great group of mods here. Look at all
my
these.
mods. That's Purdue RN.
Look at that. Jennifer Rochelle, Molly.
There's,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't too far from you, Purdue RN, but I just, like I said, I had another meeting after Larry I had to go talk to, and so couldn't make it up that far.
And Jennifer Rochelle, you are absolutely correct. Nothing worse, in my opinion, than your child being kidnapped.
Yes, the reporting of and the hours of of anxiety of trying to figure out what's going on. And we see it all the time. You know, you have everything from John Bonet to Amber. And so there's all this stuff that, you know, and how many cases involving children are active right now of missing kids. And we had one out of Washington, I believe it was Washington, where Lucian, and they just found a month or two ago. I just got a report from Level-Headed, that another creator that sent me the report of where they found him.
That was Washington.
Waccamaw or something like
that. All right. And from Jackie B, this is interesting. I'm not familiar with this case, but it breaks my heart when families go without answers for so long.
It is. And like I said, it's an honor to work with these people and try to do something, because a lot of these families, when you look at these cases in law enforcement, none of the original officers are still working on this case. And so, and they get passed along, and the families, you know, they're stuck and they don't think anyone cares anymore. And they want people to not forget, because we all are getting older, and we don't want that when we pass that the answers won't be found. And so we have to do everything we can to try to get those answers while those who care are still alive, and that's the rush.
And Betty, so sad, all the missing children. Amber, such a cutie. Remember you speaking with her dad.
Yes, and he's, like I said, he is full of fire. There's several other terms I could use, but I choose not to. Family-oriented YouTube.
There you go. And Aaron, I am jealous. 87 degrees where she lived. Oh my goodness, I am so jealous.
They're down. I believe she's somewhere near the border. You're on the back side of it, though.
Wow, that would be nice. That would feel so nice.
We were talking about Florida today.
Yes, we were. And Legay, True Crime Web, and Fireplace, and hot coffee. That's awesome.
It is.
I'm
awesome. Gonna go get me some more in just a few minutes.
Yep. And Stacy's mom, a parent's worst nightmare.
It is. And like I said, the roller coaster
of it
afterwards.
Imagine. I mean,
you know, yeah. I mean, from the time that you hear good news that, oh, we may have found her, and then nothing comes of it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, and Cyclops. Let me talk about Cyclops real quick. I've got 4 states left, and 2 of them are sitting on my desk. So when I can type again, I'll get those up. I do see the light at the end of that tunnel.
And we want to thank all the volunteers that helped us on that.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's no way I could have done that without you guys. No way.
For those who are joining new that haven't seen anything, Cyclops is a search engine and mapping of missing children, that as we got involved in this cold case in true crime world, and we were looking at trying to locate missing children across the United States, there's plenty of databases out there that you can look at, but there's not anything that just focuses on the children so much. And so that's what we designed the Cyclops for, and just for kids that are 19 and younger.
All right, and Miss Mitzi, I wonder if there's been any discovery of Jane Does in close proximity. Wish there was a mandatory database for all remains that are found in USA.
It's not mandatory, but I'm sent recently. Code Truth sent me one of remains of a small child that was found several hundred miles away, and thought that might be connected to this, but turns out not. Um, but yes, there's several databases out there that have that uh, information available, and you just have to search and do with it what you can. But there's no easy answer for any of it.
Let's see here. And if you were able to find some remains, what kind of evidence do you think that might yield? DNA possibly?
Yes, and that's all we can hope for. First, we got to find if we can locate any area that has disturbed earth, and this electrical resistivity imaging will show any type of disturbed earth of any type of, that if you had to dig and disrupt the layers of the earth, this will show it. And so that's a great thing. And it's something that we would have to do regardless if we brought in cadaver dogs or not. And the interesting thing about this is that it doesn't matter if there's a house standing or if it's gone, that they can still use this. So even with a house that's there, this method will work in crawl spaces, basement areas, paved lots, concrete slabs. You can use this. You have to take certain methods that are used in that field to get to those areas that have been paved over, and maybe slabs and things of that nature, but it can be done. And that's the interesting part of it, that this imaging allows us to do those searches.
And Mr. Steve, do you think at any point you will interact with the Indiana cold case unit on this case?
Well, this case is out of Texas, so but now on the other cases, yes, I have. There's 2 other cases in Indiana that I've worked on, and we'll continue to work on as the families need me. And I've got to get up on the Evansdale. Try to get up there in January. For whatever reason, I thought I could go to Iowa in January and not have any snow. That has not been the case.
Kristen behind the crime doors here.
Hello, Kristen. You're going to be on in just a few minutes. I'll be by to check in on you.
Oh, and Aaron's in Jacksonville, Florida. See, it's all about Florida.
It is.
All right, let's see here. In the SA database, do they put info of where they have lived?
I don't know if they cover all that information on all those databases or not. I know they'll have them where they come up missing out of a certain area, but I don't know. Some of them do, and some probably don't.
Molly says she's working and shouldn't be too much longer on her Cyclops thing. No worries. I can't do anything with it anyway.
We thank all of y'all for what y'all do.
We sure do. Oh my God, that's a super sticker.
JDR, appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Means a lot to us.
Sure does. All right. Now let's see.
That is
here.
awesome.
Huh?
I said that is awesome.
Oh, I thought you told me I didn't turn it off. Oh, and Kristen.
Oh, so proud of the hard work you do for all these cases. Such a great show tonight. Much love. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're feeling better. The other night she was not, and I was able to assist her.
Look at
Josh the
here.
Posh.
Josh
Thank you,
the
Mr.
Posh.
Steve. I'm waiting on Texas, doing a true crime club, book club with community inspired by you two, focused on victims and justice.
Oh,
Absolutely unreal. Send me an email of where you're from, Josh. If we're in the area anytime, I'd like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's see here. Mr. Steve from Ann. Okay. So Monroe says on day after Christmas, he left a 2-year-old sick child out in the back of his pickup while he went into the store. And when he came back, child was gone. Did anyone else see her?
Well, she was in the pickup truck cab on the passenger side from what he says. There was a young man that testified in court that he was outside the store and he never saw Amber in the truck. He is now deceased, and of course, for whatever reason at the time of the trial, they paid no attention to that testimony of him reporting that she wasn't in the truck. And so it is what it is. And that was a strange a bit of information. And Larry, we sat and we discussed that for quite a while the other day of why they would disregard that information. And it is a mystery.
Okay. And Dwayne's Prospecting Adventures, they just an offer. I'm available anytime if you need someone to help with cold cases. He's in North Carolina, north of Charlotte.
Send me an email, steve@truecrimeweb.com. I work with anyone and everyone that wants to help for the right reasons, and I appreciate your offer.
Absolutely. All right.
That's pretty much it.
That is it.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all being here tonight with us. And like I said, I'm still recovering it. As you get older, it's harder to get over these trips.
It was a whirlwind, though.
It was a whirlwind. I had, like I said, I had so much to do and get done, and I was able to accomplish that, and then get back and get ready for the other stuff that we're doing. And then whenever I move and go out west, when her arm is better, there will be times that we will be on the road probably for a week, 10 days. So just bear with us and I'll get as much information to you. Okay.
And from Ann, Mr. Steve, regarding witness who said he didn't see child in pickup truck cab, do you mean state didn't call him to testify?
No, he testified. He was on the stand and stated it during court. And for whatever reason, they disregarded that information. Strange.
That makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Now, that's my understanding from the way I read in the article. I'll look up that article and get that clarified.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, are you going to do anything about what your jello or anything?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. So we are good.
Okay. But anyway, guys, I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing y'all soon. Let's see, today is what day? Tuesday. So I'll be tomorrow afternoon for our members, and that's I think that I missed the Sunday. We're going to do all the members this Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I missed the Sunday show for all the members.
All right.
So this Wednesday we'll have all the members, and then Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we'll have the morning watch show. And so I'll start getting back into our old routine. And so I'll see the members tomorrow night, and I'll see anyone that's up after midnight tomorrow night on the morning watch. But y'all take care and look and stay safe out there.
All right. Love y'all.